conscionable when the guy who apparently is the head of Countrywide and his co-conspirators make huge amounts of money while Americans are facing the threat of losing their own homes.
All right, so question, is CEO pay excessive or not? Joining me now, Pulitzer Prize winner Steve Pearlstein, economics columnist for the Washington Post. Don Luskin still with us. Steve Pearlstein, many congratulations for your Pulitzer Prize. Nice going.
Thank you, Larry.
So are American CEOs overpaid? Let's get right down to it.
Yeah, I think that they're overpaid, although I don't necessarily agree with everything that John McCain just said. But, yeah, as a general rule, the pay levels are too high, and there's a little bit of a heads I win, tails you lose quality to it.
You think this guy, Dan Amos, we just had him on from Aflac, they've had fabulous returns and fabulous profits. His latest compensation statement is about $12 million. Is he overpaid?
Well, if $12 million is his total compensation, you know, that's a little higher than I would think, but that's not outrageous. The outrageous ones are when you start getting $30, $40, $50 million a year.
Don Luskin, $30, $40, $50 million a year, is that a terrible thing for a CEO?
I don't know. You don't know. Steve Pearlstein doesn't know. Winning a Pulitzer Prize is a wonderful thing, but that doesn't entitle you to just mouth off about whether a certain amount is too high and another amount is too low. I don't know. Let's let the market decide. What we need to have is a market in corporate control. And I think the idea of having shareholders vote is a good idea. I think going back to the early 80s, before we had all these anti-takeover provisions, was a good idea. If a CEO is getting paid too much, let somebody take over his company. Throw the rascal out.
You said
let shareholders decide. I just think we've just got to stop looking at a number like $50 million and thinking, gee, that's more than I'll ever make, so it must be too high.
But should shareholders have the power, not advisory power, but should they have the power to vote down a compensation package?
Well, why not try it? I think, you know, why not have an experiment where some companies try that and other companies try the opposite? And we'll see what happens to their stock price. We'll see what happens to their business. That's the great thing about capitalism. You get to try and you get to fail. What's bad about socialism is people who think they're smarter than everybody else get political power and they decide how much CEOs make, they decide how much talk show hosts make, they decide how much journalists make, how much economists make, and that's a mistake.
I mean,
that's really nice.
I don't get, how do you know what constitutes too much? And looking at CEOs versus Oprah Winfrey or Alex Rodriguez, the great baseball player, or Tom Cruise or whatever, how do you know, Steve?
Well, you know, how do directors know? They're the ones who decide. And you say that the market decides. Well, actually, directors decide, Don, so that's factually wrong. Secondly, you know, how do I know? How did I know that there's going to be a bubble in commercial real estate? Well, when cap rate gets to 5%, I think that that's so, and I get paid to mouth off, Don, so that's it. I don't get paid as much as you.
Steve, let me clarify my remarks, and let me say also that I love your work. You are one of the best, but. All I'm saying is you have the right to your opinion, absolutely. I have the right to my opinion, but it's just that. What I think nobody has the right to do is to turn an opinion into political power that through the police power of government starts putting a cap or taxes or other kinds of penalties or incentives that distort pay for executives or anybody else. So God bless you for your opinion, but let's not let Congress turn opinion into law.
Let me be real clear. I don't think the government should control it. I don't think government should tax it. I don't believe that the vote should be binding even by the shareholders. So I don't believe in control. But as a matter of fact, I think that directors are exercising their discretion in a bad way. And I think it's perfectly legitimate for me, or for John McCain for that matter, to cause them to be subjects of disapprobation and for them to be criticized in public, and maybe they'll behave differently in the future. That's all I'm calling for.
Steve, I'm kind of with you on that. In fact, what I actually said, and I guess something in what I said must have kind of angered you because you kind of missed my main point, which is I want to go back to the 80s where there really was a market in corporate control and where malfeasant CEOs and malfeasant directors could get thrown out if they were spending too much on jets and CEO pay, or for that matter, on stupid acquisitions or any other mistaken policy. So, yeah, let's return it to a world where the market really does decide instead of a bunch of ensconced management. That would be great. I think we're saying the same thing.
Steve Pearlstein, a couple of things, though. Just a couple of facts in this. I mean, there have been studies. Look, during the terrible stock market, 2000 to 2003, CEO compensation fell, and it fell quite a bit. In fact, the upper income people were the ones who saw their incomes drop. That was 2000 and 2003, a dreadful stock market period. The other one, a study, this is a piece put out in the American magazine, Javier Gabellas, he's a Harvard-trained economist, he's actually a Frenchman, from 1980 to 2003, a six-fold increase in market capitalization was precisely the six-fold increase in average CEO pay. So I'm prepared to argue, Steve, that markets do work.
Well, would you let me argue the other side?
Sure, I want to hear it.
One of the arguments for larger and larger corporations is that they enjoy economies of scale. If that were the case, then one of the benefits of scale economies is that the enterprise grows and its profits grows by 6%. That doesn't mean that every single cost should grow by 6%. And in fact, you wouldn't expect it. Frankly, Larry, I think that that's a misuse of data. And this is why. You're talking about compensation to a human being on the one hand, and then you're talking about the number of billions of dollars that profits might increase for a huge corporation in employing tens of thousands of people.
But that's what you hire him for.
No,
that's what you want him to do. That's why there's a market for CEOs.
He's not the company. He's not the company. He's a hired help. And what a labor market economist would say, if you can get a guy who is 98% as good for $2 million, you should take that. But that's never a calculation the board makes.
Don Luskin, last word, 6 seconds. Will this lead to government control of pay?
Oh, look, we've already got lots of government control of pay, mostly through the tax code. I pray we don't get more of it. And by the way, what McCain said is he was not protesting CEO compensation. He was protesting people who made too much money in the mortgage crisis.
We got to get out of here. We got more to be continued.